Hi, welcome to Mrs. G's Sewing Space. I'm glad you're able to join me today. My name is Emily and I'm Mrs. G. And today we are going to talk about rice heating pads, or the little rice pads that you can pop in the microwave for a minute and have them heat up, and a cover. Okay, so today we are talking about the rice pads. I've heard a lot of people ask about how do you make the rice pads, what are they used for? So this is a cotton quilted fabric. It's like a muslin. It's nothing fancy, nothing expensive, and it's just a small piece. And I have channels in here so that I can evenly distribute the rice in the pack itself, because you don't want all the rice to fall to one side or to one corner and not have it spread evenly. Most rice packs don't have a cover to it, so we'll be doing a cover as well. And I hope you enjoy the video.
Alright, today we're going to be making rice babies, or I call them rice babies, from a website that I found giving instructions on how to make rice babies, but these are just regular old rice packs. This is a really simple, easy beginner project. And this is just a simple hand warmer where you can just throw it in the microwave and it keeps your hands warm. Or this one, I like this one because it has channels. I did channels to it, and I only filled it up part way, so about right here. And I left this part empty so the rice could lay out flat. And I like the channels because it allows it to form over a knee or an elbow. I found that on some of the rice warmers that I do, if I don't put channels in, all the rice just goes to one corner or one side. You can have it expand a little more and it'll stay in place a little better than having just a square pocket when all the rice just one to one side. So I like the channels better myself personally. So this is what we're going to be making today. Like I said, it's super simple project. All you need, I'm going to set this aside. All you need is flannel or cotton. This is just a simple cotton fabric, or you can use another kind of fabric, as long as it's as close to 100% cotton as you can get it. You typically want an all-natural fabric to be able to go into the microwave, because this is going to go into the microwave. The rice is going to heat up. It's going to give you that heat when you pull it out, but you don't want it any longer than a minute. Anything longer than that can catch fire. So I'm going to use this as the bag for the rice, and I'm going to use this as a cover. Now this, what I used right here, was a outdoor home deck fabric, and this has a layer of flannel inside. So I have two layers on this one. I have a layer of flannel, and then I just have this cotton quilting fabric, and I just layered it up. Now both of these, this one and this one, doesn't have a cover, and you have to be careful. If they get wet, you will not be able to use them. There's rice in these bags, and as soon as it gets wet, it'll get moldy and yucky and you'll have to throw it away. But if you keep them in the freezer, which is where I keep these at, you keep them in the freezer or you pop them in the microwave for a minute, and as long as they don't get wet, you're still good. However, you will get some dirt and yuckiness on them, like this one has a stain on it. And I don't know if this happened before I used the fabric or not, I can't remember. But you need to be careful with your rice. In figuring out what size you want, you can always use something bigger, something like this to go over a knee or a leg or a foot or something. Or you can do something a little smaller that's about the size of your palm or your hand for, you know, when you want to have, when you're cold and you need a little hand warmer or something like that. I think I'm going to go to this just so that I have something bigger that you can see and how I'm working with this. So let's get our measurements out. Okay, so this is, according to this measuring tape, this is about 7 inches by 7.5 inches. So I'm going to cut out, so 7.5 inches by 8 inches, because we're going to have a 1/2 inch seam allowance. That means I get to use my new ruler that I got for Christmas from my husband. Check this out. This is a ruler that my husband bought me for Christmas. I'm not sure where he picked this up at, but it has the straightest, can't talk today. It has the straightest edge in my entire house. We were going around the house and just laying it on top of things to see how straight everything is. It's very heavy. This is knock 'em out heavy. But I also like this because He likes it because it's gold. I like it because this is really nice. Keep your pencils. It's like a pencil holder. So if I'm drawing, if I'm pattern drafting, I can use this as a pencil holder right there. And look at that. It doesn't go anywhere. That's awesome. I like that. Okay, so I'm actually going to put this up. I'm not going to use this ruler. It's too big. It's too big for what I need, so I'm going to put that up right there. So I'm going to bring out my handy dandy flexible ruler here, and I'm just going to measure out from the edge of my fabric right here 8 by 7.5. Okay, so I just need to cut out 2 of those. So let me get that cut. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to do a simple square. So I'm going to do the outside, and then I'm going to do the channels. If you don't want to do the channels, that's okay. You can totally skip the channel part, but I'm going to show you how I do it anyways, just in case you want to do the channels like I did in this one. So right sides together. Now if you had a pattern on your fabric like the monkey fabric, then you would do it right sides together. And I'm like, I have some marks here, so I'll just like this, right sides together. And you're going to sew. We'll do, I did a 1/2 inch seam allowance, but I always do 1/4 inches. So just a 1/4 inch around, all the way around here. And you're going to leave the top completely open. So just down the sides and just on the bottom. And we're going to leave the top open. So let me go get that sewn real quick. Okay, so now that we got our edges, all 3 edges done up, we're going to flip this inside out. Alright, so we flip this inside out. We're going to finger press our edges right here. And we're also going to finger press these edges. So I'm just going to fold it over this way. Just like this. I'll finger press those edges down right there. So that way we have an idea of where our seam allowance is going to, not our seam allowance, our seam is going to be. So it's important that we have that line there. So if you want to fill the bag, you can go ahead and do that, no problem. If you want to do the channels, like I'm going to show you, we're going to do the channels there. So you can skip forward if you don't want to do the channels. So the bag is about 6.5 inches. So we'll just go over 1 inch. I'm not particularly, let's see, 6.5 would be 3 1/4. So there's our middle spot right there. And we're just marking our channels. So I'm not big on the preciseness on something like this, especially if it's going to be something just for you. If you want to be more precise, you're certainly welcome to. I don't particularly care, and I'm okay. I mean, it is what it is. Just as long as it's generally equal. So this is just a fast sew, nothing to get all hung up about if it's not completely straight. Okay, so there are my channels, and there's the line. That's where I finger pressed originally here at the top. What we want to do, we want to be able to tuck in the fabric this way to be able to sew the channels. So when everything's done, we'll just do a zip right across here. But that means that if you're going to tuck in the fabric, you can only sew up to like right here on each channel, because you're going to need room to tuck in the seam allowance. Because if you go all the way to the edge, you won't be able to tuck in the extra fabric. It just makes life more difficult. I'm going to start right here. I'm just going to sew a row of stitching down this line, and I'm going to stop right here. And I'm going to do it 5 times. And then we'll be able to fill the channel. So I'm going to do that from here all the way up to those marks right there. And then I'll quit sewing right there. So that way it leaves us a channel, it leaves us an opening, and it leaves us a space to fold the fabric to the inside to then be able to sew here. Now there's going to be a little gap right there. and we're going to sew that shut as well, but it won't be till after we get this seam done. Okay, so here is my bag. I did it in black thread so you can see the channels. So I did it from the end, and I backstitched at the ends so that the stitching wouldn't come apart. And I stopped right here at the marks, or as close to the marks as I could get. So here we go. So backstitch here at the end, stitched all the way forward to my marks. This is going to give us room to put the rice in, and I'm only going to fill it about to here. Let's see, about say 2.5, about to here on the rice, because you don't want it overstuffed. If you overstuff it, your rice pack won't bend, and you need it to be flexible to get around wherever you need to get it around. So I'm going to take it and I'm going to fill it up through the channels here. See the channels here? So those channels here, where my pencil is, with rice, and I'm going to fill it up to about right here. Now here's my rice. So I buy like 5-pound bags of rice, and then I separate it all out into these huge mason jars. If you have a funnel, it makes life a lot easier if you can have a funnel and use it to pour your rice in. But if not, you can also just take a piece of paper and you kind of roll it like this, which is also a funnel. See? And then you just stuff it in the channel and use this as a funnel to put the rice in. Okay, so here we are. I'm going to pin this up so I can get an idea of how full it is. I'm just going to fold it over on my line, pin it across so none of the rice grains escape. And you can kind of tell I overfilled 1 or 2 of them, and that's okay. But here they are. So they're tightly packed here at the bottom, but I have room here so they can become a little more loosey-goosey. And those channels allow it to lay a little flat, and if you hold them sideways, none of that rice will fall to the corner. They all stay in their channels, which is what I wanted. I wanted to have an equal distribution of the rice as much as possible. So now what I'm going to do, I'm going to pop all this, scoot all that rice back down, because now we need to fold in our edge and pin everything up so that we can finish our sewing. So now I'm going to take this edge right here, I'm going to fold it to the inside. Fold it to the inside like this. And the opposite side as well, fold it to the inside so that we have matching edges. Is I'm going to take a pin and pin across the channels right here like this. And doing this will keep the rice in place. There might be 1 or 2 rice grains that escape, but it'll mostly keep the rice in place so that when I sew, the rice grains won't slide up to the top of the channel and get in the way of my sewing needle. And I am going to do this on my sewing machine. So all those pins right there will hold all the rice down. I'm going to sew a stitch right across the top, and then I'm going to go back and finish off the channels. So as soon as I close the end, we'll finish off the channels by sewing straight to the edge. And remember to backstitch at the beginning and the end of each part of the channel. So I'm going to go get that done, and I'll be right back. Okay, here we go. So you can see from my stitching here, what I did on my sewing machine, I put it this way. I put my foot here, I started stitching, I backstitched, and I stitched to the edge, and I backstitched. And then while everything was still threaded, I didn't bother snipping anything. And I just moved to the next channel, stitch down, move to the next channel, stitch down, move next to the next channel, stitch down, next channel, stitch down, until I was done. So now I can go back and snip all my threads without any major issues. The channels have been closed. They have been backstitched for security, so the channel should not come open unless you pick it open. Get the front and the back. Now the Rice Baby, or the Rice Pack heating pad, whatever you want to call it, for here is complete. With my channels, the rice is evenly dispersed, and that's good to go. Now let's make a cover for it. So I'm going to use this as my measurements. So using the Rice Pack, we're going to have 3 pieces to like the cover or the sham that would go over it. So you need 1 full-size piece, and then you need 2 half pieces. So I'm just going to use this and sketch out around, or if you want to use your measuring ruler, we're going to do like a 1/2 inch around. Alright, so this is going to be our front piece. The two back pieces are going to be like this. So you're going to have your front piece, and you're going to have 2 overlapping back pieces. So each piece will overlap the other. So this one's kind of short, so our next pieces are going to have to be longer. So we'll see. We want it to overlap. So we'll say 1/3. We can use that mark here. So from there to there would be 4.5 inches. So about 9 inches. Because it's going to be folded in half. So we'll just come up from here and measure 9 inches up. And you'll need 2 of those. So we have the front piece, which is quite bigger, so it's our seam allowance. And then we're going to take our second piece and we're going to fold it down like this. And we're going to put right sides together just like this. Just like that. So see how we have a slight overlap right here like this? That's going to be our opening to slide the Rice Baby in and out. So here we go. Here's the cover. I serged around the edges, and now we just flip it to the outside just like this, popping out those corners. Okay, so here's the cover. Now if you want to put a little snap here or something here, you can certainly welcome to do that, or you can just leave it as it is. If you want it to have a deeper opening, meaning there's more overlap, then you just need to lengthen this piece by a few inches. So instead of doing 9 inches like I did, we do 10 or 11, and then that'll give you a bigger overlap there. So to put it in, open it up, slide in the bottom like that, push in the top like that, straighten it out, and there you go. And there you go, and there's your cover for your heating pad. You got the channels, everything's evenly distributed. You got a cover on it, so if you need to give this to somebody and they get mud on it or they get sick on it, you have a cover so that you can easily take it off and wash it and put the Rice Baby back into the freezer or wherever you keep it at. As long as you don't get the rice wet, you can use it in the freezer. You can store it in the freezer. You can put it in the microwave no more than a minute. It doesn't need to be any more than a minute. And you need to always make sure that you're using 100% natural fabrics and thread when you're sewing something like this for the microwave. Polyester is a plastic and it will combust, or it will be flammable. It won't combust. It's not going to explode on you, but it will catch fire. So I use these all the time, mostly as something out of the freezer when somebody needs, my daughters, when they have headaches, they'll put these on their heads and then the headaches miraculously go away and they feel better. So these are awesome for our kids. So that's it. It's just a simple project, nothing big and fancy. If you do want to get fancy, you can change the shape of this to fit around like your neck and shoulders, because then all you need is a U shape. You can do a long tubular kind and fill it part way. That can also fit around your neck and shoulders. You can take the pattern and the ideas here in this video and make something bigger or better, or however it is that you would want to do it. So this is just a simple beginner project for anybody who's learning how to sew and wants to know how to make the heat packs, rice babies.